Let the game be your guide. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here, and we're talking King Arthur Legends Rise. So I've got some kind of cool news here. First, I appreciate all you guys checking out my last couple of videos on this. I am going to continue to cover this occasionally. It looks like at the moment I'll be covering it on this channel. If it grows to a point where I feel I need to split it off into a different channel, we will do that. But I'll be continuing creating some content once or twice a week on King Arthur Legends Rise. It's a fun game. I'm enjoying it. You guys seem to enjoy some of the videos as well. So I have actually applied and been accepted as an official content creator with Netmarble. So if you guys go down to the link below, you'll be able to see this particular page right here. So from this particular page right here, you can click on this support button right here, and you will be able to support. Now, it says I have to support somebody else. I cannot support myself, so I've chosen to support another content creator, Big Papa Drock, cool dude, and I'm in his clan, so it makes a lot of sense. But you can support me, if you choose to, by clicking that link and logging in with your Netmarble account and clicking support. What does support do for you? Well, as a supporter, I can give you codes when I earn them for free from this website. All right, so if you go over to this other page where your supporter info, you can see my support. As I said, I'm supporting Big Papa Drock, cool dude. And if you support him, I'm not going to be too upset either. He's a good dude. But you can see there's benefits here. Now, I have not received a coupon for him because I've been only following him for a couple days through this method. But what'll happen here is I can go in through an interface and give you codes to give you free stuff. Right now, I have about 500 codes for 2 free 50 stamina refills. If you hit that support button and support me, I can get you 2 refills. On top of that, any purchases that you make will count towards my support. I believe I may get a little bit of kickback from that. I'm not 100% sure. That's great, although that's not really why I'm doing this. I think this is kind of fun, and I think this is a good game. But it also shows support, which means that perhaps it might give me opportunities to do cooler things with Netmarble in the future. So I really appreciate if you can smash that support button down below. And while you're at it, like and subscribe to this channel, and we'll get some more King Arthur content. So one of the things I've been very impressed with King Arthur is there's all kinds of ways to level up, but the game has actually been very good about letting you know what you need to do when you try to do something. And I think that is absolutely amazing. So let's just go into one of the heroes here for a moment and say, I'm going to go in and awaken my champion. Well, I don't actually have enough of these crow statues. So I can click on the crow statue. It'll tell me the source. And it'll tell me, ooh, look, this is actually open right now. These are the ones that it's open the best to get it from. And obviously you can get further on. Anything that says 3x means I've beaten it at least once. So I can run 3 times and basically get triple rewards. And, so I can just go here right now. Here's the team I've got running for it. I can run it on auto, or I can manual it if I want to. But it takes me right where I need to go. When I'm done, I can back up. It brings me right back to where I was beforehand. Click on these things here, find the source. Well, these are from the Forbidden Dungeon, the Clan Shop, and the Forbidden Dungeon Shop. So if I need these pedestals, I know where to get them as well. So if I go to the Clan Shop, it'll literally take me to the Clan Shop. Hey, look at that. Here's the pedestals. All done. Take me right back here. Some of this stuff here, if I go someplace I can't get, like for example, I can't go to Master of Death 5 because I haven't unlocked Master of Death 5. So it tells me it's currently locked, and it won't even take me there because it's currently locked. It's nice to know, because at least I know what I need to look for and where to find it. Find some of this stuff too. If it has it in the inventory, I can literally go here, go to the inventory owned, and use, I've got 3 of these selectors to select 3 of these. So that's not the 7 that I need, but I can select the 3 of them right now without having to go into my inventory, figure out what I need and select it, what I'm missing and what I need to do to get stuff from these champions. The other way this works, which I think is very clever, is if I go into some of these dungeons here. So let's just go into the Plain of Beasts. And I go in and I look at this. Well, this tells me, the strategy info tells me what the strategy is of the dungeon for things that I will need. So it says take multi-hitters and additional attackers. Well, you'll see here These are a couple of the big multi-hitters. You'll also notice that 2 of these are for free. This dungeon is so important that it gives you 2 of the best heroes for this dungeon for free. And these other 2 are ones you can pull as well. I have all of these, so they're all populated. Whereas if I go to this additional attack one, well, you'll see I've got a couple of these champions. I do not have this dude here, the Iwrit, and I think I pronounced that correctly. So they show up as gray. Everyone else I actually have, but there's more I can do. Going in here, hitting OK. Now that I'm here, I can see this recommended stage conditions, and it says I don't actually meet these recommended stage conditions. Well, what's not happening? Well, I don't have anybody at level 60. I don't have all of their equipment is 4-star or better. I don't have keepstakes at 1 star. I don't have enhance all keepstakes at +3. I do, however, have relics that are all level 10 plus. All my equipment is at least 6 plus, and I at least have 1-star awakening on all of them. So I can see what they recommend to get into this dungeon on the champions that I have, beyond just whether or not I have the right strategy. Now, this doesn't tell me anything with the strategy. So if I go in here and let's just swap you out for, we'll grab you. See, now it tells me, oh, look, I don't have all the relic level 10 on her. That's fine. Good to know. Just need to go grab somebody else. Now I've at least got some of the stuff there. Now, it doesn't mean you can't beat the dungeon if you don't meet all those recommended stage conditions. In fact, if I go back to the previous stage that I have beat, and I can beat very regularly, you'll notice I still don't meet all of these conditions here, because apparently I have a K that probably has some 2-star equipment on her still, and as a result I have equipment that's not rolled up to +9 on her, and it still works just fine. But hitting those conditions will make it easier for you to know what you need to do. So it's very nice to know that, hey, I just need some 3-star equipment. Well, hey, maybe I'll go into my K right here and go into her equipment. And what am I missing? All right, so I don't have a critical set that I would like to have in this set. So let's go take a look. I can filter. All right, ooh, look, so I've got a couple of these critical sets. But what I've got on her is I can see the ones she's got on here right now. It's got evasion, which is good on her because she does evade, and it's got crit strike rate. Well, that's important because I wanted a crit strike. Plus, this is an attack, so she's going to do more damage versus this is a defense. So if I look at these 3-star ones, that's an attack with an evasion, so that's not too bad. This has got attack speed and is attack and defense. So this is actually an improvement. So why don't I equip this on K? And we'll enhance this to +9. Now I can go back here. Hey, look, I meet all the conditions. Now, again, I didn't actually have to meet all of these conditions because I've been able to beat this stage without a problem, meeting only most of the conditions. But this gives you an interesting and fun look at, hey, the game is telling me where I can improve and what it thinks I need to do in order to advance. Now, with any game in this particular genre, and just in general, depending on which champions you have and how you have them built, you're not going to need to hit every single box. As you saw, my K is generally built fairly well, so as a result, I didn't have to check every single box on here. She was good enough to do the previous dungeon previously. She'll be good enough to do it now that I've improved her some more. Some of that is also probably related to the fact that some of these other champions were well beyond level 50, all equipment 3-star or better, all at +9, and all awakened. So having several other champions that are beyond it meant that one champion who was a little bit behind wasn't going to drag me down too much. You can get stats from all kinds of places, and that's something that's worth mentioning and is very important. So let's go in here and go take a look at Morgan. So we look at her stats, and these are the overall stats that she has. I believe that's actually her net stats. So if I go in here for equipment, yep, that is indeed her net stats. If we go into the detailed equipment settings, you can see what happens when I change things up a little bit. But if I look here on the relics, and particularly if I go to advance, you can see what the relic is providing to those base stats. And you can actually see what the changes are. So going from level 40, 4-star, to making this a 5-star level 40, you'll see I'm going to get 30-ish attack. I'm going to get 25-ish defense, and I'm going to get 200 HP. Well, that's not an insignificant amount, and since that applies to the base of the character, then all those percentage boosts are going to actually get better and better and better. So stats will snowball, and that's how important some of these relics are. If we go down to a champion that doesn't have a high level relic, so let's just, you don't have a high level relic, you're a relic at level 10. The relics seem to be advancing at a pretty similar pace. So you'll see here, I've only got an additional 800 HP as opposed to an additional 2000 HP. Now, some of that may be because this is a rare versus a legendary, and the stats are definitely a little different from them too. But upping the relic level adds an awful lot of stats that can be very, very helpful in getting content done. So we're going to look at the Burning Lands here for a second for just another example of where this works. Is we've got the information here, and you want inflict damage of time, remove damage over time, and then it's got Gorgos Slayer, which, you know, some champions are just really, really good at killing them. Now you get Anguish for free. Anguish is really good at killing Gorgos, so that's a win-win. He's also the right affinity for it out of the gate, which makes it a lot easier to deal with. You'll see he does a lot of inflict damage over time. You've got a couple of other champions that inflict damage over time too. Most of them are rares. There are a couple legendaries, but most of them are rares or uncommons. We get to remove damage over time. There's only one legendary and a couple of rares and uncommons. And in fact, this dude right here is Dejaret. He is an absolute beast in this dungeon if you want to build him up. He's going to be difficult to build because he's going to take a lot of resources to be better, because as an uncommon, his stats are just a little bit worse. Early on, at least, he can really help you in this dungeon. And what can happen, though, is we just go here in this level here. I meet most of the requirements, but I'm able to pull this one off without too much of a problem. Whereas if I go to this one here, this is level 60, nobody meets it. All equipment 4-star, nobody meets it. Enhance all equipments. So I've only got a couple things I've actually met on this floor, and I know if I run this floor, I'm going to get absolutely murdered, because for me at least, the difference between the previous floor and this floor is I need to be able to get rid of the damage over times a lot faster than I was on the previous floor. And what that means for me is I either need to build up my Jarret a little bit more, or I need to level up Isolde, because Isolde has got to remove damage over time here, but it's only a 50%. So if I get this up, this passive can activate more often, remove more of them. She has also got one of these on a 3-turn cooldown. Well, I can get this to a 2-turn cooldown, and that will help remove more of them as well. So some of these things are cooldown related. Some of them are skill related. Overall, knowing how to attack these dungeons and knowing what skills you need makes it a lot easier for the game to kind of guide you. And the game actually does a good job of telling you this stuff might work. It doesn't mean that you can't just brute force it. And in fact, that's part of the reason I've been using Bedivere in a lot of stuff. Bedivere does so much damage, he can brute force a lot of the dungeons. But I still need to bring all of the rest of the correct supports. Sometimes they're damage dealers, sometimes they're controls, sometimes they're supports, to get around and through the various dungeons. The other thing that's been very important to know is it never hurts to try this. So I'm going to try Burning Lands right here, Burning Lands 12. I've got my stuff set up for it. And this is one of the things too, where letting the game guide you can be very helpful as well. So if I go in here and I set the skill order, knowing the champions and knowing what I need, it lets me set these things up here too. So Isolde on her 1 and her 3, so on her 3 stamina thing and on her 1 recover stamina, she will put out some damage over time. And then her healing, which will also remove damage over time, is on her 2. So I want her to prioritize this and occasionally do the A1 to throw additional damage over times out there. Bedivere has got an AoE that he hits fairly hard with, got a very big stack single target, and then he's got a regular A1. While I love to do the AoE becomes less useful as he starts losing body parts because they don't have many things to hit. Plus, it's a really big smack for a single target, whereas the AoE does good damage, but honestly, it's, sometimes the single target can actually do more, or at least more relevant damage. So I find that if I turn this off, I have more stamina for everyone else. Morgan, I generally just use her on this particular boss to she gets a chance to sleep. She gets a chance to push back turn meter a little bit. So if I turn this on, she'll reduce the turn meter just a little bit. If I turn this off, she won't do a lot of turn meter reduction. We'll do that turn meter reduction because overall that helps control the fight just a little bit better. Otherwise, she's adding some increased damage taken both from damage over time and from direct damage as well. So having her prioritize that A1 is very helpful. Anguish puts damage over times on his skill here and puts damage over times on his skill here and then detonates it on the middle one. However, I found that I was not fast enough to get them off and then immediately detonate them. So what was happening is he was wasting the 2 vigor skill when I'd rather have him just get more damage over times out on the boss. So I turned off this and run it like this, and it works fairly well. And overall, having the skills set up like this means you can kind of count on the economy for how much vigor you're going to use or have at any particular time. So I have a couple people that are prioritizing their 2 skills, but they'll do their 1 skill occasionally, which means that somebody can do their 3 skill without a problem. If I told everybody to do their 3 skill with no comparison, then what happens is I'll find these champions not doing the skills I want them to do. Sometimes they won't do them in the order, and it's quite often the champion I really, really want to prioritize their 3rd skill won't do it because they'll never have enough vigor to do it. So that's kind of how you set this up. It definitely helps to know what skills you're looking for, and it will depend on which boss you're fighting as well. So we'll go here for this boss, but I am expecting, because right now I've got a bunch of burns on there, and unfortunately Isolde already used her healing that got rid of the burns, so we're not getting rid of them, so we're taking a ton of damage. So the hope here is now I've got 3 or 4 burns. Okay, Isolde is getting rid of some of them, but these guys are getting scorched and they're taking some damage. And overall, it's going to catch up with me pretty quickly because my stats are not high enough to resist the damage or soak the damage up, and I don't have the right champion to clear it. On the other hand, on the previous floor, my champions are a little bit faster, so they're better at clearing off some of that scorch. And we're doing kind of okay, but I don't expect this to last too long. Up, there they go. So he just ignited all my scorches and we're dead. Now the good news is I'm not out any stamina, so it wasn't a big deal for me to give that a try. So meanwhile, if I exit, go back to the dungeon here, I can then run this version of it, start the battle, and this should run much better. All right, so we cut in here at the end. Took me a minute and a half. Wasn't a particularly long run. Was very safe. No one was ever below about 80% HP. And it worked just fine. So I got my rewards. I used my 30 energy, and we're all good. You might ask yourself, Bront, how do I know which champions to prioritize? Well, that's part of where knowing some of this stuff helps. Well, there's a couple different champions here. I know Rosier is very good. She's a good damage dealer that can do some bleeds. I haven't invested in her much, but I have invested in her a little bit. She's a champion I do want to focus on. However, I was working on Anguish first before I even got Rosier, so I wanted to focus on Anguish first, and I needed a second healer beyond just Turin, so I had focused on Isolde as well and pushed her very high. So I chose to go with those 2 champions first, and fortunately, earlier versions of this, you can simply out-heal the damage over time. Eventually, though, you need to figure out how to remove the damage over time. So I have been working on Jarrett here. I've got him. See, mine's actually a 5-star. He's not fully booked. He's not fully built yet. I need to invest in his relic as well. So there's things I need to invest in him. And then on top of that, I sort of need to figure out how I want to use him here. Because he removes 1 damage over time from all allies and then grants all allies crit rate increase for 1 turn, and he puts poison on himself. The problem that I'm still having when I'm using him is that he will kill himself if I don't bring another healer. So I kind of need to bring him and Isolde, and then kind of hope Anguish is enough to keep everyone else, do enough damage against the boss. Some of it is give or take. Some of it is compromise for what you're doing. And sometimes it's a matter of which champions do you like. There's a lot of champions that are fun to use. There's a lot of champions that are good. So you can certainly invest in any champion, especially if they show up as somebody who would be good for this particular boss. But there's reasons they may not actually show up as good for the boss properly. For example, Morgan doesn't show up as good for this boss, but I found that she's been very, very effective for me. She may be the champion I remove, but she's been very effective in this boss. She's very effective in the Plane of Beasts because she can control turn meter. So as a result, when controlling turn meter, you can get more chances to take the shield down because you'll have multiple attacks to do it. Plus, she does have 2 and 3 hitters on her abilities that also control turn meter. So it's not necessarily your big 4 hitter, 5 hitter, 6 hitter, 8 hitter as Tristan's got on one of his weapons. But you can find different champions to use, find out which skills are most effective for that particular form, and a little bit of trial of error never hurt anyone. Finally, one of the coolest things about whether or not you're going to make a mistake in investing in a champion is that you've gotten at least 2 reset tokens. Now, I believe they give these out pretty early on, but if I decide that I really don't like Bedivere, I can click on this reset token and it will uninvest everything I have invested in him. The only thing I don't get back is I don't get back any gold I spent in using any of these resources. So if I spent gold putting potions in him effectively, well, I don't get that gold back, but I get every other resource back if I find out I don't like him and he was a waste of my time. The good news is I honestly don't think, outside of maybe the commons, you can invest in a champion that is not worth investing in. The uncommons, some of them have some uses, particularly in some of the dungeons for the affinities, for like the crow or the stag, some of those dungeons. You're going to need some uncommons for a little while. You're definitely going to need some rares because you're not going to have legendaries and you're not going to have a full team of legendary in every dungeon. Overall, I don't think you can make a bad choice. The worst thing that you will have to do is you'll have to farm some of the lower level dungeons for just a little bit longer to get the resources to level up another champion. Having a diverse roster is its own reward because it means in things like the Forbidden Dungeon, you can take all kinds of champions where you want to. So hopefully this has been kind of helpful for good ways to find out what you need to do to advance yourself in King Arthur. So I've been having some fun with it. I am really liking the game, and I'm hoping you're liking the game too. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to see more content like this, let me know, who are some of your favorite champions you're using and where you're at. And if you get a chance, hit that button, that link down below. I will pin it in the comments where you too can support me and my channel with Netmarble. So until the next video, I'm Bront CatHerder.